May 30th is the 10-year anniversary of my father's death. And I especially think about him during the month of June because that's the month of Father's Day. So instead of being sad this year, I wanted to make a video celebrating him and the wonderful things that he did and the wonderful man that he was, despite the fact that he was a Holocaust survivor. Despite going through that, he was still a good man. He wasn't bitter, and he had such an optimistic outlook on life. And I always wondered, why would someone who went through something like that, why would they be so optimistic about things? But then I figure if you went through something so bad, you appreciate the good things. I've learned so many lessons from him, and I think that times when I feel like I'm being a bad person, I think, well, what would my dad do? What was his outlook about a situation like this? So I'm just gonna make a little segment about it. One of the biggest things he's always said is, there's always hope. I remember having a bad breakup or, let's say, a hard time at work, and I would stop and think what he went through. Like, why would I even complain? But you know, you don't think that. You always think that is like the worst thing to happen in your life at the moment. And so I guess what I'm saying is there's always hope. And looking back, like some of the stuff that had happened years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, it don't matter. Because I've had hope and I moved on. The other thing I always remember is that he had respect for animals and for nature. I think it's a shame he never got to own a house and be in the countryside or a suburb, but he still always found some kind of element of nature in his surroundings. And he always lived in an urban area, so that was kind of tough. But even the simple thing like a bird chirping, which I really appreciate myself now, and squirrels, pigeons, he would feed them, and that passed on to me, and I can't even turn away from an animal in need now. So thanks, Dad. The other thing that he always taught me, and if I could put it into a phrase, is comparison is the thief of joy. If someone is doing something bad to you or acting in a certain way, it's more of a reflection upon them. And I know that sounds like such a overused way of thinking, but he actually thought that way. And he would say, you know, instead of being mad at that person, you should actually feel sorry for them. So I kind of look at things that way now in life. And the most important thing don't waste food. I don't know if that's a Jewish thing or it's just because, you know, he was practically starving in the concentration camps, but he always would make the most of leftovers, which is what I do. And I really feel that people waste food, and you really should think about it. And if an animal died for you, you should honor it by eating the meat for the purpose of why it died instead of throwing it in the garbage. And the most important thing is that you should appreciate the people in your life and love them like it's your last day. And I'm not trying to sound morbid or sad, but every morning when my husband leaves for work, I tell him I love him, because you never know what's going to happen that day. There are so many people who never get to say goodbye to the people that they loved. I was fortunate enough to say goodbye to my father, even though he died a very hard death of cancer. But I at least got to say my goodbyes, and some people don't get to do that. I even tell my dog every night that I love her, just in case. So this Father's Day, honor your father figure, honor someone who's like a father. So I honor this segment not only to my father, but my father-in-law, who has been very good to me, and also my husband, who is a father. And another thing he taught me was, if you have a grudge against someone, try to work it out. I know there's certain situations where you can't, but I have been in situations and I look back, I said, well, why am I not talking to this person? Did they hurt anybody? Did they sleep with my husband or something like that? And the answer is usually no, and it's some stupid reason. And you know what? Life is too short. I hope you enjoyed this segment. I know it's a little different from what I usually do, but another thing my father taught me was you have to evolve. Happy Father's Day.